Let's see, Justin Hernandez says, theoretically, if you had $100,000 to invest, I have a lot more than that. In multifamily, self-storage, or the next flip house, and you wanted to do it as a joint venture, which would you choose as your first joint project? So we build our business based on recurring deal flow. We're really, really good at finding deals. Some people aren't really good at finding deals because they don't want to do it. So for us, I would say I'd put the money into another deal because, yeah, rental properties are great. They have cash flow, they have appreciation, they have depreciation, but the velocity of your money is really, really slow. So how fast you can turn over your money is slow. Since we're really good at getting deals, we turn over deals, 12-17, we'll be out of that deal by March, so 4 months. Our average turnover ratio on a large scale flip is probably about 4 months. Our average turnover ratio for like a big ass flip is more time, and our average turnover for a wholesale is, last I looked, is about 60 days. So purchase to sale. So we're really good at moving our money. Now that doesn't mean that we're necessarily the best at keeping everything that we should for long-term appreciation. But if we're really good at doing high volume of deals, then I don't know if I really want to like focus on getting a whole bunch of rentals right now, since we're really, really good at this other aspect of the business. In terms of multifamily, I think there's great opportunities in that space. I've been burned on multifamily in the past personally, but that's more about market timing than about like even the property itself. So always think when you're looking at deals, always analyze your turnover ratio in terms of what's your exit strategy for getting your money back out again and then reallocating your money. And are you happy with that turnover ratio? Look at the return of how much are you likely to make on this money. And that's a variable, right? All this stuff is variable, but what's the likelihood of making, this much money on this much money in whatever the time frame is? And then the third part that's going to become more and more important is the actual perceived risk of the property. So let's talk about that for a second. And with any investment, any investment. Look at, obviously, the cost, right? How much does it cost you to get in? Look at the exit. So, what's your exit strategy? When are you going to get your money back out? Now, if you're doing inventory for a store and turning over product, that's different than if you're doing houses. But if you have a chunky piece like 100 grand, what's your exit strategy on getting your 100 grand back out again? And then the most important one that people don't think about is velocity. That's really important. Because if you have 100 grand tied up in a property and it's going to be sitting there for 2 years, well, if you're happy with a 10% annualized return because you're a lender and you're being completely passive, that's fine. But if you're being really, really active and you're getting 10% a year over 2 years and you're working your ass off, that's maybe not such a good investment. So velocity of money. The other thing you need to look at is the amount of work, scale of work. In other words, how much work are you personally going to have to do with it? And this feeds into so perceived risk is huge, huge, huge in a slower market. In our market right now, we can over rehab, we can overpay, and then appreciation can catch up. We can make an extra 20 grand, think that we're brilliant, and like keep going, right? That works in this market. That doesn't work in a slower market. So perceived risk. So the perceived part is going to come from your experience, right? The perceived part is based on your experience with whatever it is, based on maybe the operator's experience with whatever it is. What is their perception of what the amount of risk is for this property? So there's different levels of risk, right? There's absolute catastrophic loss. So you lose everything, your principal, your interest, your time, all that stuff. That sucks. I've done it, it's not fun. And there's minimal risk. So we do this with every single property that we buy, guys. We do this analysis with every single property we buy. We built out spreadsheets for analyzing wholesale, and flip products. Every property that we go through, we have like a checkoff list about like a lot of these different aspects. Now, we're pretty good at just buying stuff really well. So some of the stuff is a little like fluid. But really, this is what I go through every single time I buy a deal in my mind. Here's where I get caught up. I get caught up on this, right? Because that sucks. I get caught up on this, because sometimes stuff takes more work than you think it does. And usually these Usually these are we're pretty close on it. We're pretty close on these, and we're usually pretty close on these. But these are the two where I get into trouble, is the velocity of the money, how fast we can turn over deals. The more volume you do, the honestly kind of lower your velocity is, and the scale of work on the properties, because it's easy to have scope creep, even when you're as like good at this stuff as we are. So Justin, that's a long way of answering your question. Look at all these different things before you get going.